going to turn it, I guess, our final speaker, Ann Basham, who's the CEO of the Interparliamentary Taskforce on Human Trafficking, and as I mentioned, a board member of the Parliamentary and Intelligence Security Forum. So thank you, Ann.
Thank you so much for having me. And before I continue, I just want to mention I'm going to put a QR code up here in a minute, which is a way to connect with us. But Jane is available, and she advises nations, she advises leaders on anti-trafficking policy, and I am happy to connect you with her as well. As she said, she works extensively. I want to, before I start, my remarks will be brief. I know it's the end of the day. I have very targeted policy recommendations for you, but I want to thank Congressman Pittenger for bringing us together. You know, the Interparliamentary Task Force on Human Trafficking that I lead was really birthed here at PISF because it was important to Congressman Pittenger, and I'm so grateful for his leadership and that he always prioritizes this issue. I also want to say that human trafficking is a security issue, and he recognized that from the beginning as well. It is not just a human rights issue. Jane touched on that, and I'm going to try to go after what she just so poignantly said with a few other suggestions here. But it is really unique among human rights abuses because it is not just a human rights issue. It is a global security issue. As Senator Reynolds mentioned, it actually ties into every single nation in the world, especially free nations. They are every single nation in the entire world that threatens the security of free nations uses human trafficking in some capacity as a form of financial gain. So it's true, every single one. We're going to dive into a couple things. First of all, quick story. Several years ago, a friend of mine, she's an accomplished business leader. She is not an expert in human trafficking. She travels frequently for work. She called me from an airport in distress. She had noticed something that didn't look right. A young girl was accompanied by an older man with clear anxiety, signs of control, and she remembered a conversation that we had had about human trafficking and recognized some of the red flags. She wasn't a frontline responder. She wasn't part of law enforcement, but she was an informed citizen, and that's exactly what Jane mentioned to you. She was informed. She knew the very, very basics about what the signs of human trafficking are. Human trafficking is not just the responsibility of law enforcement, it's the responsibility of every single person. And I am here to say today that you as lawmakers, you have the biggest capacity of anyone in the entire world to change this. William Wilberforce in the 1800s is the one who ushered in the end of the transatlantic slave crisis. He was a lawmaker. He was an MP. And that goes today. So I only have a few minutes, but as I mentioned, there will be a QR code. Please contact me. We have advisement. We would be happy to have you further engage on this issue. Well, she called me. I told her what to do. I said, report it to law enforcement. It was indeed a trafficking situation. And because of that, the police intervened. The girl was spared from further exploitation. She was actually recovered out of that situation. But what struck me most was what my friend did next. She actually went on social media. Again, she just owns the business. And she talked about the story and said, hey, here are the signs. I think all of you should know too, because this happens frequently in airports, and she educated others. So my question for you today is, what if more people were trained collectively to spot the signs of human trafficking and exploitation? That's exactly what Jane mentioned. Almost every single victim of human trafficking remains a victim and does not ever become a survivor. And the reason for that is actually, and this is a true statistic, only 0.4% of all victims are ever identified. That means 99.6% of victims remain unseen, just as Jane said. They are never discovered. It all starts with awareness. I'm going to flip through. Can we go, do I go to the next slide? How do I go? Is there a way to go to the next slide? Okay. We'll go to the next one, but beyond that. And one more. At its core, human trafficking is a corrupt business model. And again, this is what makes it different. It's not just child abuse. It's different than domestic violence. It's different than even religious persecution because it is actually rooted in it's a financial crime. It's a corrupt business model, and because of this, businesses are in a very unique position to actually disrupt this business model. Thank you so much. Businesses are everywhere. They operate and they have unmatched influence. Okay, this is an example from the Ukraine war, and I want to mention this to you because everyone here is familiar with this. So during the start of the war, nations tried to negotiate, they tried to do things, but a Yale law professor decided that he was going to put a list together. And this list ended up being a form of sanctions against Russia that really slowed down the entire process and gave Ukraine the edge. And it was not issued by a government. It was actually issued by businesses collectively saying, we are going to remove our business from Russia. And when they collectively did this, and it was publicized through Yale Law, these are the businesses that were actually on there, they put incredible pressure and criminal operations to prevent exploitation. So we can do this with trafficking, and I'm here to talk about a very specific plan. Small and medium-sized enterprises make up over 90% of businesses worldwide. Over 90% of businesses worldwide. And so because of this, there is actually an incredible path forward, and it's been done in the United States, and I'm here to tell you about it, and it's very, very easy to mimic. It's called Businesses Against Trafficking, or BAT, and it empowers businesses to recognize and report signs of trafficking. So we've heard about supply chains. We think that's absolutely important. You know, there's a lot of new supply chain legislation. The EU actually issued a supply chain legislation a few years ago. Super grateful for that. But this goes actually a different route. This says we want you to recognize it within your place of business. Jane was not in supply chains. Jane was in school. She was showing up in hospitals. This is where we see trafficking occur most frequently. And what we want to do is have a pathway forward for every single nation to create a BAT program. So Businesses Against Trafficking program. Here's just one case study. This is from the state of Mississippi. And in the United States, if you think of each state like a country, this is how it's been implemented. So there are now several states. I've been on the front lines of helping the state of Tennessee, the state of Virginia, multiple states create this and successfully increase their rate of identification. So increase the number of people like Jane who are identified. In just the state of Mississippi, over 3,000 victims were identified. It's estimated, though, like I said, that less than 1% are ever identified. So if we know that there were over 300,000 who were likely impacted over the last 17 years, and we didn't know it. They just fell through the cracks. But small businesses make up literally more than 50% in the state of Mississippi. And if 99% of all those businesses in the state actually were going to get trained, and again, this is free training that's offered, it would be a massive, massive amount of people who were eyes and ears and able to identify these various victims of trafficking and help them actually become survivors. So this is the QR code. It does lead you to an initiative that spots and stops human trafficking and exploitation in the marketplace. But additional to that, you can reach out to us that way, and we would be happy to connect you with the task force, connect you with Jane. Like I said, just fill out the form, put in your email address, and we will be happy. I think there's a comment section in there as well for you to do that. And so before we end here, I just want to thank you so much for your time. I also want to recognize that Senator Reynolds has been a key part of this whole process as well with her orphanage trafficking. We're really just scratching the surface. Thank you for taking the time. I know it's the end of the day. And again, thank you to Congressman Pittenger.
Thank you.